Japan is holding a state funeral for former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe this hour. The 67-year-old was gunned down at an election rally in July. Now you're looking at live pictures from Nippon Budokan, an indoor arena in Tokyo. Security is especially tight, with world leaders as well as Japanese government officials in attendance. Now, though the ceremony is drawing global attention, it is a divisive issue at home. The event is estimated to cost taxpayers more than $11 million. The death of the hawkish Mr. Abe has also brought into focus the ruling party's close ties with the controversial Unification Church. Michiyo Ishida joins us live from Tokyo. Mitch, the funeral ceremony started about an hour ago. Take us through some of the highlights.
Yes, the funeral has been solemn, serene. It started with the arrival of Mr. Shinzo Abe's ashes, carried by his wife, Mrs. Akie. There were 19 funeral artillery salutes fired, and a national anthem performed in a minute of silence. What was especially, I would just say, had a tinge of humor, something like Mr. Shinzo Abe. He always sprinkled humor in his speeches. His video showed his legacy as Prime Minister, the leaders he met, his visit to the Tohoku area, which was devastated by the big tsunami and earthquake, what he has achieved, including his policy. Now, this video was played with music behind, and it was a piano music which was performed by Mr. Abe himself. And when the video ended, his piano performance ended, and he said a little joke, and there were big applause among the people in the audience. And it was followed by eulogies presented by Prime Minister Kishida, who's the chair of the state funeral, and also a representative of his friends, former Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga.
Mitch, you mentioned the eulogies. What were some of the main takeaways from those speeches made?
Well, Mr. Kishida explained that he actually became a parliamentarian at the same time as Mr. Abe did. That was 29 years ago. And so they studied policies together. And he went through Mr. Abe's history as a parliamentarian and prime minister. And he talked about the 1 year he served as prime minister, but he had to step down due to an illness. Now, he mentioned some of his legacy, such as upgrading defense agency to a ministry, reforming the education law. At the Indian Diet, he talked about the Indo-Pacific, and that led to the framework that we always hear about today, free and open Indo-Pacific. Mr. Kishida said that it was Mr. Abe who strengthened U.S.-Japan ties. He formed the Quad, the summit of leaders of 4 countries, the U.S., India, Australia, and Japan. He talked about EPA with the EU, the European Union, and he said that he was proud serving under Mr. Abe as a foreign minister. He served for more than 5 years. And he said that he wanted to continue Mr. Abe's legacy as prime minister. Now, Mr. Suga was very emotional. He said that upon hearing that Mr. Abe was shot, he couldn't believe it. He was so shocked, but he wanted to be with Mr. Abe immediately. And so he did. He went to the hospital to see the body of Mr. Abe. And he felt that Mr. Abe gave Mr. Suga a warm smile, which he did from time to time when Mr. Suga was serving as a chief cabinet secretary. Now, Mr. Suga and Mr. Kishida both mentioned about one major highlight. It's Mr. Abe's commitment to bring home Japanese who were abducted to North Korea. Now, under Mr. Abe, this has not been achieved. Mr. Suga and Mr. Kishida are hoping that they will be able to bring back the Japanese home as their parents, their relatives are all aging.
Mitch, we also know that there are ongoing protests against this state funeral. why is Mr. Abe such a divisive figure? And has the government made any effort to ease the opposition to this event?
Well, as the date of the state funeral neared, there's been rising voices against the state funeral. Now, some of the reasons: one is too costly, and another, it's Mr. Abe's relationship with the Unification Church, which has in Japan long been treated as a cult, and this did not sit well with the Japanese public. And it was not only Mr. Abe, but half of LDP members were seen as having links with the Unification Church. So voices grew louder, and there are currently more people against the state funeral for Mr. Abe than those for. And these voices have also been reflected in the Ishida cabinet's public approval rating. His public approval rating, according to the Mainichi Shimbun, is as low as 29%. Now, many analysts and opposition party leaders say that if it were not a state funeral, but an LDP and cabinet-hosted joint funeral with both sides paying for the funeral, the public may have been more supportive. But Mr. Kishida did not make this happen. So next week, the extraordinary diet session will be convened, and Mr. Kishida may likely be grilled for his decision of holding a state funeral for Mr. Abe.
All right, many thanks there. Michiyo Ishida speaking to us live from Tokyo, where the state funeral of former Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe is currently underway.